Okay. Mr. Wood, can you confirm that the Kansas Open Meetings regulations and notifications were met?
Yes, they were.
Okay, so we'll proceed to call this meeting to order on December 11th, 2024 at 4 p.m. and go to the roll call.
Chair Deborah Settler.
Yes, here.
Vice Chair Alicia Strang.
Present.
Members Tina Behringer.
Here.
Jason Gibson.
Here.
Aaron Melby.
Here.
Alini Zavisky.
Here.
And new member Marvina Havikhorst.
Here.
Representing the city of Salina, we have Deputy City Manager Jacob Wood.
I'm here.
Chief CJ Wise. And Professional Standards Captain Rachel Larson.
Here. We move to approve the minutes from our June 6, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
Before we move, I do notice that I have some typos that I will be correcting and redistributing.
Okay. Do we need to say those or?
I have a typo in Jason Gibson's last name, Alini Zavisky's last name, and then I left out Jacob Wood.
Okay, okay. And you'll fix that and we'll get that. Okay.
Correct.
So, good. Thank you for that. Do we have an emotion to approve them with the corrections?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes after corrections are made.
I
second.
Okay. Is there any more discussion on those? All right. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay. The motion passes. And so we have a staff report update.
Go ahead and take it away.
Or oh no, sorry. Oh yeah, quarterly reports.
Yeah, so as you know, we didn't have a meeting last time, so we actually have 2 quarterly reports that are in here. I don't know if there's anything really significant in the reports. Seems to be pretty standard. If there's any questions about those, be happy to entertain them. It seems like everything's just kind of about normal.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay. So moving ahead to new business.
Yep.
Okay.
We could start with the introduction of new board members. So we did have a new appointment of, we have Marvina Havikhorst, who's, as you all know, she was sitting to the right of me for a long time. So she's been here, kind of understands what the board's all about, and put her name in the hat and got selected. So happy to have you here on the board with us. And then we also had another member that was appointed. His name was Fernando Rodriguez, but he declined to take a seat. He had some circumstances change between the time he submitted his EOI, so we are still one short on the board. And I think this is the first meeting for Alini Zavisky. She is our representative from the Community Relations Commission. So,
can
welcome.
I say hi?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here. Nice to meet you all.
It's good to have you.
Okay, and with that, so it seems like everybody in here, except for maybe Alini, has been through a board orientation. And since you're already on another board, you probably have done that and understand how boards operate. So I'm going to go through this, but I might abbreviate it just a little bit because we do have a case that we're going to go over today, and that will take, probably at least 30 minutes to go through that process. And I don't want to keep you guys here till 6 o'clock unless you guys want me to read all the slides. So I will go through this. I'm still going to hit the highlights. But I won't go into as much detail as I might have if we'd had new board members. So just first off, in the packet you have the receipt of board volunteer documents. That document that just sign off that says you received those forms. Those include the resolution for citizen volunteer boards. They include the resolution for ethics, and then just a guide to open government that comes from the Kansas Secretary of State's office. So, and I'm going to go over a little bit from each one of those documents, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the ordinance that sets up this board in particular. It's a good time to do that because we're going to go through a case today anyway, and some of the guidelines of how we go through cases is outlined in that ordinance. So this is the makeup of all the boards and commissions across the city. We have different kinds of boards. This board is what we call an advisory board, which means you have the ability and authority to advise and make recommendations. And your job specifically is to make recommendations to the police chief and the city manager based on policy guidance, so policy things within the policy within the police department, and then also the review of bias-based or race-based police cases or complaints that we get. It's bias-based and excessive use of force. I said two things that were the same. So the citizen board policy, this is a policy that governs how all of our city boards and commissions work. And basically it just says that this is, we feel like as a city that this is an important role for the democratic process to have members of the community providing guidance and having input in how the city runs. Some guidelines for operation, participation. We do expect you as board members to attend on a regular basis. I am going to hit this a little bit here. We've had in the last couple of years, we have had a couple of meetings that have been canceled due to lack of quorum. And so, I know we don't do this very often. I try to send out reminders, and I know life happens, so I know that's going to happen. The main thing is try to be here as much as you can. And then if you're not going to be here, if you'll let us know in advance so that we can, if we know we're not going to have a quorum, we can reschedule the meeting to a different time. But if you don't let us know, then I'm going to come here, and Rachel's going to come here, and we're going to have staff all lined out to do that. And it's kind of hard for us when we have to. I mean, I have this time set aside for this meeting, so we just prefer to, if you know in advance that you're not going to be here, just let us know. And don't get me wrong, I understand life happens. So there are circumstances where you're not going to make it. That's not a big deal. But if you could let us know, as soon in advance, that'd be helpful. Compensation, you're not going to get paid for this. The rules and procedures is outlined in this board policy, and I'll go through a couple of those things. And then one thing, staff responsibilities, the citizen boards are not given authority to direct staff. They're really here to provide guidance. You can't tell us that we have to do additional work or whatever. Now, if you have something you want, if you want us to review a policy, that's what this board is for. We will do those things, but you can't tell staff you're going to do X, Y, or Z. If that makes sense. Rules of procedure. This is outlined in the ordinance. Regular meetings, we have to have a quorum in order to have a meeting, and so for this board, that's a simple majority, so that's 5 is a quorum. So we have to have 5 members to have a meeting. Agenda, we are going to put together an agenda and a packet. Staff liaison is going to do that. I'm the staff liaison, obviously, for this board, so I prepare that and I send that out to the board. If there's an item or something that a board member has a suggestion on something we should talk about, or policy, or something you want to put on the agenda, you can let me know, and we'll take that up. Public participation. This isn't really for the board, it's for the public. It's not necessarily required, but we do recognize in most boards we do allow the public to come and speak if they want to. It's not a requirement by state law or anything like that, but we generally do allow members of the public and give them a time and a place to provide input at all of our board and commission meetings. So debate motion, second required. This just kind of talks about how things operate in a meeting, and you guys have all been part of this before, so you guys are doing it right. We have a motion that's on somebody makes a motion to pass the minutes, somebody seconds, you have a discussion, and then you take a vote. So I think that's pretty basic. I will get into the Kansas Open Meeting Act just a little bit. I'm not going to go through everything in too much detail. Most boards and commissions with the city don't do executive sessions, but we are one board that does that. An executive session is a closed-door session that's not open to the public. This board is one of the few. The city commission does it as well, but this board is one of the few that does that, and we have a specific reason for doing that, and that is to review the cases. There's personnel discussions that happen behind closed doors. When we go in there to review the case, you're going to see an officer's badge. You're going to see the officer. You're going to be able to tell who that person is. So what happens in executive session is intended to stay in executive session. So those discussions aren't intended to go outside. Serial communications, I think I'll talk about that here in a minute. That's a big one with COMA that we talk about. A serial communication is a communication that happens where board members talk to you have the ability to talk to other board members. You can talk about city business with other board members, but you can't talk about board business as a majority of the board. So 5 of you can't have a conversation about a city business item. So that's why I will send, if I'm asking for a response from an email, I'll ask you not to reply all to that, because if you reply all, that creates an open public forum. And if we're creating an open public forum, we should be notifying the public, and they should be allowed or available to take part in that. So don't reply all. That's really where it becomes an issue with a board like this. Just don't reply all to those emails, and we're pretty good. I'm not going to do that part. Notice of the meeting is something that is required, so you'll see that we do. I send out our system is on our website. So you guys are all signed up for that. It should come to your inbox as an email notification. Notifications also go out to the public. We're only required to notify people if they have requested notification. So it does go out on our website, but you can go in and sign up for notification if you want to receive, if you want to know when and where a meeting is going to happen. So the penalties, if we violate the Open Records or Open Meetings Act, what happens is generally somebody files a complaint with the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General comes down, does a review, sees what we did, whether we did it wrong or right, and then they'll have some findings. I've never seen anybody actually get penalized the $500. It could happen. I've not seen that happen. Generally what they say is, we would like you to do additional training on open meetings law, and so you understand it. And I will say, that confirmation of Kansas open meeting regulation at that first line of the meeting, that is a result of us not doing it right. So we've added that in to kind of provide cover for the governing bodies or different boards and commissions, so that it becomes a staff responsibility. Really, state law, it is a responsibility of whoever's on the board to make sure we're following those rules, and that's not really fair to you. So that's why we put that in there, so it puts it back on us, and I have to make sure. So if there was an investigation, they would come and say, did you make sure that it went out correctly? And that's why we do that. I already talked about serial communication, so I'm not going to talk about that again. So Kansas Open Meetings Act doesn't say how you will conduct a meeting. The only requirement is that you provide an agenda, that if you have an agenda, that you make it available to the public. So it doesn't talk about public comment, doesn't talk about any of those things, doesn't set up the agenda. It just says that you have to provide notice, and you have to provide agenda if you have one. So there's no real state law that governs how we actually do things. As I said, the public does not have a right to speak. They have a right to listen and observe, but they don't necessarily have a right to speak. We allow them to speak because that's common courtesy, and we think that's good practice, but it's not something that's necessarily required in the law. Executive sessions, as I said, we will have executive sessions in this board. There has to be a formal motion that's written correctly, so that's why we provide that to you, so you can just read it. The parts of the motion that has to state the subject that you're going to discuss, the justification specifically from statute, and then the time and place where the meeting will resume. So we're going to leave this meeting, do an executive session, and the motion will say that we'll resume the open meeting in this room at whatever time is appropriate. and this is the executive session that we use for this board. There was a copy in the packet as well, and then I provided it to board member Melby so he can read it later today. Okay, ethics policy. This is the most fun part of this, and some of this is you just have to slog through and read it, but this is the policy that kind of acknowledges the importance of ethics and integrity in local government, and basically just highlights that you should do the right thing. This is not any position that you have shouldn't be for personal gain. It's really set up so that it's for the best for the city at large. This policy does apply to members of the governing body. It applies to appointed members of cities, commissions, authorities, boards, committees, and also to city employees. I'm not going to read through all the general principles, but one of the things I think is important, and I have it underlined here, is do not disclose or use information received in the course of performing one's duties that is to be maintained in confidence. So this is a board that goes into executive session and is expected to maintain that confidence. So, you're going to see some names, you're going to see circumstances. It's not something that you should be going and talking about at the coffee shop or that sort of thing. Consequences: if there is a violation, somebody could report a violation. There would be an investigation. Generally, what would happen is we would take a look at it. There'd be a private notice and maybe a warning. So we say, hey, we noticed you did this. Please don't do it again. If it gets worse, there could be a public censure, or you could be removed from the board. I've not seen that happen. I think maybe in the past 10 years, there's been one complaint of an ethics violation from somebody on the city commission a while back, but I haven't seen it happen on any other boards. LECRB. So that is why we are here. This is the ordinance that outlines what we do, or what the intent and mission of the LECRB is. And I will read through this. The goal of this board is to advise and assist the police department in policy development related to racial or other bias-based policing by police officers and police department pursuant to state law. It is to promote, advocate, and educate citizens about the existence and purpose of the board, and to assist the city manager, the chief of police, and the commission in the development of racial or bias-based policing comprehensive plan. And then also to provide recommendations resulting from board-initiated review of police department policies other than those policies addressing topics that are kind of closed-door topics. And then the last, and I think probably the one that gets the most attention here, is to review and advise the chief of police as to whether preliminary administrative determination of the pre-disciplinary status of all complaints of excessive use of force or racial or other bias-based policing by police officers are supported by substantial competent evidence. And that was obviously written by an attorney. So basically what that means is we're going to review cases that have been investigated that are based on bias-based policing or excessive use of force, and this governing body or this board's mission is to review that and determine whether they agree with the police chief's assessment of whether that complaint is substantiated. So that's kind of a lot, but it's, in a nutshell, we're reviewing it to make sure the police department's doing what they're supposed to do. So, and so far, we don't have a whole lot of these complaints, so there's not as many reviews as you might think. But so far, this board has always agreed with the chief's finding. So we'll see if we can keep that record going. And that is it. I'd be happy to entertain any questions. If there's anything that specifically that you would like to know. There is a longer version of this out on the internet where I go through in much more detail each kind of one of those points. I can provide that as well if you would like it, but that is really the basis of what we do as a board for the city of Salina. So happy to answer any questions. I feel like I did that really fast, so I'm getting better at this. It's only taken like 3 years. Okay, if there are no questions, then on to fun. Part of the boards and commissions policies is that we need to set up a chair and a vice chair, and we do that annually. So if you want to take nominations for a chair and a vice chair, we can go through that.
Sure.
If you're willing to serve again, you let us know that.
I would entertain if someone else is interested in being the chair, and if not, I could continue, but I would also encourage someone else, if they're interested, to be part of that process, if you want to.
I move that we retain Alicia Strang as vice chair and Deborah Shetler as chair,
Okay.
because they know what they're doing.
I second that.
There's a motion and a second to keep the chair and the vice chair the same. Is there any discussion on that? So we would take a vote on that?
Mhm.
Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Okay, the motion passes.
All
and-
right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sandbag you.
Okay. Okay, so we're on to other business then.
Yeah, and other business is just really a time if there's something that a board member has that they would like to bring up, something you'd like us to look at. If there's a future policy you'd like the board to have a discussion on and bring back. I think in the future we do have a plan to do the review our taser policy again. We haven't done that in a while, and I think we were going to look at the pursuit policy last meeting, but I pulled that. From today because I didn't know how long we were going to be with the review of the case. You just never know how long it's going to take to review those cases, and I appreciate your time and don't want to keep you here too super long. So
I just have an inquiry. Do you remember when we first started, you guys, that we met at the, out at the range in the training center? And I thought that was really a cool thing to do. And I don't know about anybody new here that would like to do that, maybe in the future, like meet at the training center and take a look and look at the VirTra and see how that's done for use of force judgment simulator. And I don't know, it's just an
yeah, we
idea.
certainly can. I mean, if that's a consensus of the board, you want to meet at the training center, we can go through that again. And
Yeah.
there's probably some other things that we can take a look at while we're there as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea to put things into kind of context while
Okay.
you're reviewing cases. I would
Yeah, if
like that.
if you're interested, we can just do that at the next meeting. We'll plan for that. And move
It's
it
just
there.
an idea, we don't have to jump right on it, but
You only have 4 meetings a year, so
Okay.
we kind
Gotta jump.
of
I
do
gotta
it.
jump on it.
Actually, I would agree that that's a really good idea,
okay.
especially if we're not able to do the Citizens Academy, which I was able to do the first year I was here, and it was great. And so I would encourage anyone, if that comes up again, to take advantage of that if you can, and also to take advantage of a ride-along if you can do it. I know that we can call and schedule that, so,
Yep.
and it's really good, especially for context of what we're doing here.
Yeah, and you can do that anytime. Let me know, and we'll get it scheduled with with Captain Larson and the chief. So if there's consensus, we'll just plan to have the next meeting at the training center, and we'll sit down and work up a plan for what we feel like is a good kind of training plan for that meeting, and we'll go from there. Okay.
Okay.
Doesn't look like we have anybody from the public here. So.
Okay. Not unless Chief Wise wants to. You're sitting back there. Okay, so I think we're ready to move to executive session.
Yeah, so we had a complaint of excessive use of force for an arrest that took place on July 7th, 2024. That investigation has been completed, and we're ready to have the board review it. So if you want to make that motion to go into executive session. I think we need about 30 minutes. We'll start with 30 minutes. The way executive sessions work, if we don't have enough time, we'll have to come back, reopen the meeting, and request additional time, but I think 30 minutes sound like it would be enough. So,
So I'll make a motion, or I move that the board recess into executive session for 30 minutes for the purpose of deliberating in the manner outlined in Salina Code Section 30-93D upon the subject of whether the preliminary administrative determination by the Chief of Police in relation to a complaint regarding the conduct of a police officer is supported by substantial competent evidence based upon the need to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting will resume in this room at 4:56 p.m.
I second.
Just move it, or?
yeah.
Or do we need?
We need a vote.
Okay, so we need to vote to move to executive session. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. We are back in open session at 5:56 and have determined that we need more time in our executive session.
So I'd like to move that the board recess into executive session for 10 minutes for the purpose of deliberating in the manner outlined in Salina Code Section 30-93D upon the subject of whether the preliminary administrative determination by the chief of police in relation to a complaint regarding the conduct of a police officer is supported by substantial competent evidence based upon the need to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting will resume in this room at 5:07.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I second the motion.
7. Is that 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
That's,
We're going to have
okay.
to move, guys.
Okay. All right, so all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so moved. Okay, so I'll call us back into our open session following the executive session.
We make its advisory determination that the preliminary administrative determination of the status of the complaint is supported by substantial competent evidence.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
And so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed is no. So the motion carries that we're in support.
Okay, yeah, I think
All right.
I think that'll do it. I will, we'll plan to have the next meeting at the Law Enforcement Training Center. I'll go ahead and send a notice here later this week that we're planning to do that with the date and time so you can get it on your calendar, and we'll go from there. So appreciate your time.
Okay,
We
so,
just need a motion to adjourn.
yep, I will motion that we adjourn. And,
I'll second that motion.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Okay, we're adjourned.